Good morning. This is Garry Glaub in Mooresville, North Carolina. Today we are in Lesson 31 of the Gospel of Luke, and we're covering Luke chapter 12, verses 49 through 59, and this one's called Division and Separation. At this point in the ministry of Jesus, he is distressed concerning the cross to come. But Jesus is keenly aware that was the reason he came. He continues to pour out his love on the people, though few take heed of his message. Jesus speaks of the division to come. The Jews had great difficulty turning from the law of Judaism to the grace of Christianity. Even the formerly Jewish Christians continued to struggle, initially telling Gentiles that to become Christians, they must first become Jews, must get circumcised, must follow the Jewish food customs. Paul and Peter disagreed on these items for a time. Peter demonstrated tremendous growth by accepting Paul's explanation, though Peter had walked with Jesus for 3 years. That was quite a different path from Paul, but we can see that division can exist even inside Christianity. Let's read the first passage. Luke chapter 12, verses 49 through 53 says this: "I came to send fire on the earth, and how I wish it were already kindled. But I have a baptism to be baptized with, and how distressed I am till it is accomplished. Do you suppose that I came to give peace on earth? I tell you, not at all, but rather division. For from now on 5 in one house will be divided, 3 against 2, and 2 against 3. Father will be divided against son, and son against father, mother against daughter, and daughter against mother, mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law, and daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law." Typically, fire is a symbol of judgment in the Bible, but in this case, it might be slightly different. There will be a time, though, when God will destroy this earth with fire. 2 Peter 3, verses 10 through 12 says this: "But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens will pass away with a great noise, and the elements will melt with fervent heat. Both the earth and the works that are in it will be burned up. Therefore, since all these things will be dissolved, what manner of persons ought you to be in holy conduct and godliness, looking for and hastening the coming of the day of God, because of which the heavens will be dissolved, being on fire, and the elements will melt with fervent heat." The day of the Lord seems to occur before the millennial reign of Jesus upon the earth, and at the end of the Battle of Armageddon. Certainly fire is a symbol of judgment in this case, but in Luke, Jesus seems to be pointing to another event that occurred after his ascension into heaven. That is the gift of the Holy Spirit. Before this event will occur, Jesus tells us of a baptism that he must be baptized with. This verse is pointing to his crucifixion. In our previous lesson, we discussed the wasted time and energy related to worry. When Jesus stated that he was distressed until the cross would be accomplished, does this signify that he was worried? Absolutely not. Remember, worry occurs in anticipation of an event that might or might not happen. That refers to anxiety without foreknowledge. Jesus had absolute knowledge. Jesus knew every aspect of the cross before it occurred, was aware of all of the physical pain that he would endure, was aware of the separation from the Father that would occur, was aware of the humiliation by the entire cast of characters that would bring his crucifixion to fruition. He was not worried, but he was distressed. That is similar to the feeling of a long-distance runner before the start of a marathon. He knows it will be painful, knows that it will be exhausting, but that runner competes in that race because he wants to. No one is making him run. Jesus went to the cross willingly, knowing that it would give us the opportunity to have relationship with God. Jesus performed the most unselfish act possible. Jesus paid the price, and we received the full benefit. The gospel created separation. It created division. One of the most obvious ways that this division was apparent existed between the formerly Jewish Christians, followers of Jesus, and the Jewish people, who were still following the law of the Pharisees and Sadducees. For the most part, that division still exists today between Christians and Jews. Though the vast majority of Jews today are atheistic or agnostic, the biggest difference between theistic Jews and Christians is that those Jews are waiting for the Messiah, and Christians know that the Messiah already has come. To a majority of Jews, the name of Jesus is offensive. After the cross, the separation was overt. Supernatural events occurred in conjunction with the death of Jesus, and some Jews began to wonder if they had killed the Messiah. For example, the temple veil split from top to bottom. An earthquake occurred when Jesus died, and there was darkness for 3 hours when Jesus was on the cross. As word of the resurrection of Jesus spread, there certainly were Jews who came to Jesus after the cross. We can count Paul on that list. Gentiles began to hear about Jesus too, and we can count Luke on that list. But the Christian belief never has been embraced by those on the broad path, but only for those on the narrow path. Christians are in the minority. Division exists, and that division seems to be growing. That should not be surprising based on these words from Jesus in Matthew 10, verses 21 through 26. Now brother will deliver up brother to death, and a father his child, and children will rise up against parents and cause them to be put to death, and you will be hated by all for my name's sake. But he who endures to the end will be saved. When they persecute you in this city, flee to another. For assuredly I say to you, you will not have gone through the cities of Israel before the Son of Man comes. A disciple is not above his teacher, nor a servant above his master. It is enough for a disciple that he be like his teacher, and a servant like his master. If they have called the master of the house Beelzebub, how much more will they call those of his household? Therefore do not fear them, for there is nothing covered that will not be revealed, and hidden that will not be made known. As Christians, we will be hated just as Jesus was hated. Satan hates us too. Satan and his demons continue to attack Christians, even though he cannot pry us loose from God's hands. But perhaps he can damage our testimonies by getting us to fail. A battle will continue till the end. When I became a Christian, I made a real effort to remain friends with all the friends I had before I became a Christian, even though my life and choices had changed drastically. What I found, though, was that even though I did not drop them as friends, they dropped me. Most of that was that I couldn't stop talking about Jesus. As Christians, we are set apart by God, which means separated. There must be a separation between Christians and non-Christians. As believers, we are not of this world. We're supposed to be in the world, but not of it. We are residents of heaven, currently traveling on this earth rather than residents of earth. Let's read the next passage. Luke chapter 12, verses 54 through 56 says this. Then he also said to the multitudes, whenever you see a cloud rising out of the west, immediately you say, a shower is coming, and so it is. And when you see the south wind blow, you say, there will be hot weather, and there is. Hypocrites, you can discern the face of the sky and of the earth, but how is it you do not discern this time? The Jews alive at the time of Jesus had the entire Old Testament, the Tanakh, on scrolls, containing over 300 prophecies concerning the coming Messiah that were all fulfilled in Jesus. How could they not see him when he came? Everything Jesus said and did testified of who Jesus was. There never had been anyone like him, and the entire nation of Israel was aware of this Galilean. How did they miss him? It would be similar to walking outside in a thunderstorm and being surprised by the rain. Seeing Jesus as Messiah was easier than seeing the approaching weather. But guess what? We have another approaching storm today, and the majority of the world remains unaware. Jesus is coming soon, first for his church, at least that is what seems most likely from biblical prophecies, and then 7 years after the Antichrist signs a peace treaty with Israel, Jesus will come again, this time in judgment. The unrest in the Middle East is just another step. Because there has been unrest in that location for many years, we cannot know how quickly it all could fall apart. But since the Jews returned to Israel in 1948, the end times of the Bible began. Ezekiel 38 could be just around the corner, where the surrounding Arab nations gang up on Israel. Isaiah 17 could be just around the corner as well. This tells us that Damascus, Syria, will cease from being a city, though it is currently the city on this entire earth that has been continuously inhabited for the longest time. Let's read the last passage today. Luke chapter 12, verses 57 through 59 says this, "Yes, and why, even of yourselves, do you not judge what is right? When you go with your adversary to the magistrate, make every effort along the way to settle with him, lest he drag you to the judge deliver you to the officer, and the officer throw you into prison. I tell you, you shall not depart from there till you have paid the very last mite." Who is the judge in this passage? Well, ironically, Jesus is referring to himself. Matthew chapter 25, verses 31 through 34 says this, "When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate them one from another, as a shepherd divides his sheep from the goats. And he will set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. And the king will say to those on his right hand, 'Come, you blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world.'" He will separate the sheep from the goats, the righteous from the unrighteous. Remember, there is none righteous, no, not one, at least by our own behavior, but those who have put their trust and belief in Jesus will be judged for the life that he lived, just as he was judged for the life we have lived. Luke encourages people to do everything in their power to avoid standing in front of the judge and receiving his judgment. It has always shocked me how many people never have considered what happens when they die. Many hope that there is not life after death. If it all ended with our physical deaths and there were no consequences for immoral behavior, what would be the point of a moral code? Many people believe that way and live that way, but if there is an eternity, how long does this earthly life last in comparison? Not even the length of a hiccup. It is worth considering and finding out the truth. That truth is both findable and knowable. God promises that if we seek him, we will find him. For those who do not know him yet, I would recommend that it is time to seek him. A storm is approaching soon. This is Garry Glaub in Mooresville, North Carolina. Have a blessed day.